The film has been rated for one sex scene, some nudity, and also coarse language. So starting with the sex in the film, there is one main sex scene, and in this particular scene, I mean, it's pretty obvious what they're doing. The woman is mostly, well, she's nude, so you see her from the side view and from the back. You also just see the man, he is nude as well. It's implied that he's nude, but you're just going to see him shirtless. So there's that particular sex scene. There's obviously some other intimacy that happens between this couple. There's a bit of kissing and flirting and all that kind of stuff. The other kind of sex-related scenes in the film is there are a group of men visit a strip club, and so you see some pole dancing in the background, and one of them comes out of a room, and it's kind of implied that there was some perhaps sexual behaviour that happened while he was in the room. And there are also some photos that you see of a woman who's almost nude. They're kind of quite tasteful pictures of her in these different poses, but she's not wearing a top or anything like that. So you see a little bit of nudity in that one as well. But that's pretty much the sex and the nudity all kind of wrapped together. But yeah, it was flagged as a classification concern. So onto the coarse language, there's a few F words in the film, and same with the S words and A word, and bastards is said once. Personally, I didn't think there was a huge amount of swearing. I mean, it wasn't a major, concern for me, but, it's come up in the rating, so there you go. The other things that have been flagged but aren't mentioned in the main classification are, of course, the violence and the alcohol in the film. So violence, so there isn't actually a whole lot of violence in the film as such, but there's a lot of references to violent things. So stuff like, you'll see footage, probably the most disturbing thing I think in the whole film is that you watch some drone footage, and this is where there's some surveillance going on, where there's people being monitored on these cameras, and then they're targeted and destroyed. So now, as far as I know, this is just fabricated footage. It isn't actually real footage that you're watching. I could be wrong about that though. And you see these I'm sure it isn't. You see these exploded kind of areas where you know that people have then been killed. So that's probably one, kind of perhaps troubling element to the film. There is also some footage from 9/11 and from riots and those kind of things. And there's a lot of mention of violent related acts. So everything from, 9/11 to Osama bin Laden, to execution, to terror attacks. There's a lot of stories told about violent acts. So for example, there's one story told about a family that was targeted by the Americans, and they kind of missed the target, but a little boy was killed. So then when the whole family attended his funeral, then they attacked again and pretty much wiped the whole family out. So there's a few stories like that, which are a little bit sort of upsetting, but obviously to make the point of the kind of stuff that happens in wartime. There's also very obviously a lot of discussion about cyberspace and cyber attacks, threat of nuclear attacks, and other war-related information is exchanged quite readily through the film, obviously particularly to do with national security. There's also a hunting scene where you follow a hunting party for a while, and they shoot some pheasants. So you see the birds actually being shot, and then the carcass is carried, and you later see them being cooked. And finally, with alcohol and drugs, there's no drugs anywhere in the film. I think drugs, the word, is said once. There is some smoking, and to do with alcohol, there's a few people drinking in the film, a few scenes where people are drinking, mainly champagne, wine, spirits and beer, but it's not a major theme in the film at all. Obviously, the film is mostly about Edward Snowden and him as a whistleblower, and the kind of work that he did and why he came out the way he did. Of all the major things that this film is worth seeing for, it's really the performances. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Ed Snowden is remarkable, which is no surprise. So this is the most fascinating thing, is just watching how he transforms into Ed Snowden and basically kind of helps explain the whole situation in a very simplified way. But at the same time, what I really did like about this film is that they don't dumb down any of the information. They use all that technical jargon quite openly. It is in a way which I personally found easy to understand, and I'm really not very good with technical stuff at all. So hopefully you'll find the same sort of thing. But I'm really glad that they didn't try and simplify it too much. You know, they kept some of the complex language in there, which was actually quite refreshing for me. It is an amazing film. It's an amazing story anyway. The main problem I had with the film is that despite being such a remarkable story, it's actually quite blandly told. This is a very safe telling of the film, so it doesn't have a whole lot of drama or tension anywhere in the film, and the one thing it really does lack is humour. It sort of suffers. There isn't a kind of, I don't know, any sort of sense of humour. It's a very serious film. If you do go and see Snowden, I mean, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Enjoy the film. It's quite a long film. It's 2 hours and 14 minutes. So settle in, because you'll be there for a while. But leave your thoughts in a comment below. If you do want to know more about the ratings and why the film has been classified the way it has, then there's a more detailed content breakdown on the website, which is cinemum.net.